Good evening and mabuhay, and welcome to the inaugural event on the Philippines Matters for Hawaii and Hawaii Matters for the Philippines, organized in partnership with the East-West Center, Mānoa Center for Philippine Studies, and the Philippine Consulate General in Honolulu. In honor of Filipino American History Month, tonight's event will honor and celebrate the long-standing relationship between Hawaii and the Philippines. My name is Zachary Espino, the Executive Administrative Officer at the East-West Center, and I am joined by Ms. Ana Davide, a graduate of the University of Hawaii at Mānoa and currently a medical student at the John A. Burns School of Medicine. And we will serve as your hosts for this evening.
Thank you, Zach. Maayong hapon sa inyong tanan. We would like to first welcome Mr. Ikaika Mendez. He can come forward today. So Mr. Ikaika Mendez is a native of Kanio, Honua Ula on the island of Maui. He is currently a Master of Fine Arts student for Hana Kauka, a Hawaiian theater. He just recently graduated with a BA in Olelo, Hawaii and music. He plans to use the two as a medium for not just storytelling, but a medium for language revitalization and culture preservation. Ikaika will start off our evening with an oli, and to honor the sacred space that we all share.
Aloha. O Frank Mendez Kekane, o Hati Apukahe Kawahine, Noho Pulawa, Ahana ia o Benjamin Mendez Hekane, o Castillo Kekane, o Bernardine Castillo Kawahine, Noho Pulawa, Ahana ia o Bernardine Castillo Hewahine, o Benjamin Mendez Kekane, o Bernardine Castillo Kawahine, Noho Pulawa, Ahana ia Owa Hemo Opuna, or Brennan Ikaika Mendez. So I wanted to start off with my genealogy as we are going to go into relationships between the Philippines and Hawaii. I am a native to the island of Maui, and my genealogy ties me back to the Philippines on both sides. Actually, my great-great-grandpa was from the Philippines, and then my grandpa on my mother's side is from the Philippines. So I wanted to honor that relationship. And with this oli, it talks about this place that we're all gathered, which is Mānoa. And it talks about this hill behind us, the Wa'ahila. And it talks about this land, which is Puahia. And it relates our journey, not just as students, but as Filipinos, as Hawaiians, as humans that live in this valley, that are here every day. And it relates our journey of life with the chant, because the back of this ridge is named Akaka. And Akaka is the name of the ridge, but it also means to be enlightened. So as people, as students, whether you're a student or not a student, our goal is enlightenment, right? And just like the journey upland, the journey going up is to reach enlightenment. So as we gather here today to honor the relationship between Philippines and Hawaii, I wanted to do that oli for you that was written by Kumukiave Lopez, the director of Hawaiian language. And yeah, it's called Velina Mānoa, which means welcome to Mānoa. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ikaika. I would now like to welcome the president of the East-West Center, Suzanne Vareslam, to provide opening remarks. President Vareslam joined the East-West Center in 2022 and launched a new strategic plan that advances the center's congressionally mandated mission to promote better understanding and relations among the people and nations of the United States, Asia, and the Pacific. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Aloha mai kako and mabuhay. Oh, how inspiring. Mahalo nui for that wonderful welcoming and connection. We have been waiting for this day. I just want to really, really thank all of you for being here and all of you online for joining us. Over 130 plus people have signed up online. So joining us today is in the virtual world. You know what an honor it is to have you here in this historic place, a place that is known to bring leaders from around the world and leaders like you in this IMPay design building, and a place where it was envisioned in 1960. And some of you might have been here back then, not looking at Rick for any reason, but to partner with the University of Hawaii, to have our provost here, also Michael Bruno, as well as Dr. Pia Arboleda and her team from the University of Hawaii Center for Philippine Studies, as well as Consul General Emilio Fernandez and your team. We talked about this. We envisioned this, and it's happened today because it's a beginning of a journey. And how appropriate that it would be on this month, honoring the Filipino History Heritage Month this month. So we didn't have it quite on the exact date. We wanted it on the 8th with the moon at the right location, but here you are today. I really want to welcome all of you, many, many distinguished guests, including of our foundation board members and leaders who are here, and many alumni, distinguished alumni that we're so proud of and who continue to support us, as well as our staff. You know, it's such a pleasure to be here. Just as it was mentioned, this relationship between Hawaii and the Philippines. You know, we launched the Philippines Matters for America in Washington, D.C. at Ambassador Romaldez's residence. And that's where I met the Consul General there first last year. And if you look at that publication, you will see that the people in there, most of them, the movers and shakers who have impacted, came from Hawaii. You know, when you look at the contributions and the bridge that we've built here in Hawaii with our Filipino American and all of us. You know, I was born and raised in Wahiawa. So Rick asked me, oh, are you Filipino? I said, actually, by osmosis is what he said, because I grew up in Wahiawa. So when I went to Manila, I said, this is like home. I love it. But really, it is a part of me. It's a part of all of us who grew up in Hawaii. Just as our ancestors who stewarded this land, stewarded and welcomed to the shores everyone from around the world. And today, the number of Filipinos, 25% in Hawaii, as you look at the statistics, not only just are here or have moved here, but have made major changes to contribute to Hawaii. And you can see that in that pamphlet. And many of you here who are distinguished leaders, and I can't name you all because there's so many, that you continue to contribute to the community of Hawaii. You know, it's so rooted in our history when we think about the history of migration, trade, and cultural exchange. And today we'll get an opportunity not to just to have a panel to talk about those social and economic contributions of Philippines and Hawaii, but also the cultural aspect. That every May Day, if you thought about it, those of you who went to our public schools, you always had a Filipino dance in that, or music, or a radio station. We'll get to hear a little bit about that thanks to our partners at the University of Hawaii. You know, as we reflect on this bond, we recognize, of course, the immense potential for growth for years to come. And I think this is a beginning of a continued strengthening of our ties. And we saw that with President Biden and President Marcos recently announcing the Philippine US Friendship Fellowship, something that the East-West Center is a part of as well. So again, tying Hawaii as part of those two relationships in Washington, DC, the nation, and the Philippines. So, you know, as the president of the East-West Center, I couldn't be more proud to see this day realized where we could celebrate why Philippines matters to Hawaii and this special bond. So without further ado, we're going to have a wonderful panel and a series of presentations. I don't want to take up all this time talking, but I'd like you to hear from the wonderful voices of the panelists that I'll get an opportunity to introduce. Thank you. Many of you are very, very busy with what's going on in Hawaii today. And I would be, I'd fail to recognize what's happening on Maui and many of you in your role on that when the Filipino community has really been an integral part of Lahaina and the rebuilding of that. And also those of you who've come from afar, from Virginia, we have poetry coming and wonderful arts. So with that, thank you again for being here today. And I know you will, if you already feel like me, I'm so excited. I feel fulfilled just knowing that we're going to be able to talk about this very important topic as well as celebrate. So aloha and thank you.
Mahalo nui, President Vera-Islam. I would now like to welcome our Provost, Michael Bruno of the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa. Dr. Bruno began serving as Provost in 2019 and previously served as the Vice Chancellor for Research. Please welcome Dr. Bruno onto the stage.
Aloha. Thank you, President Vera-Islam. Thank you so much for the continued partnership, the strengthening partnership between our two institutions. Ikaika, where are there? Thank you. You make us all so proud. Wonderful, wonderful job with the OLI. So on behalf of the students, the faculty and staff of UH Mānoa, thank you to the East-West Center, to the UH Center for Philippine Studies, the Philippine Consulate General in Honolulu, and the Department of Indo-Pacific Languages and Literatures for supporting this event. I want to note that the Center for Philippine Studies is going to be celebrating 50 years anniversary in 2025. 50 years, it's incredible. Likewise, I want to acknowledge the East-West Center, who has supported many, many Filipino scholars here. And in turn, that means through their work on the Mānoa campus, by extension, the East-West Center has strengthened our Philippine-related research across many, many disciplines at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa. The Department of Indo-Pacific Languages and Literatures houses language programs across the Indo-Pacific, South Asia, as well as Southeast Asia. The Filipino program is continuing to increase in terms of its enrollment. I wonder if everybody in this room knows it is the largest Filipino program in the entire nation. This is the largest. You can applaud. But I have to say that we can and we must do more, in particular in the area of attracting more Filipino students to this great university that will make it even greater. It really should, at minimum, better reflect the population of Filipinos here in Hawaii, and that really is one of our aims. I want to acknowledge the gift from the Philippine Consulate that enabled the Center for Philippine Studies to provide scholarships and awards to our undergraduate students to support the offering of Philippine-related courses, to revive the Philippine Kulintang course for this coming spring 2024, and to invite speakers from the Philippines and the mainland, including, of course, this evening's distinguished guest, Virginia Poet Laureate Luisa Igloria. Thank you. And where are you? You will raise your hands, please. I want to acknowledge and celebrate the high school students here who spearheaded the offering of Filipino history and culture as a statewide social studies elective. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Oh, you have to, you know, sometimes it's okay, even here in Hawaii, to brag and to be proud. That's okay. So congratulations. Thank you, guys. One important program note before I forget, I was asked by Pia to encourage all of you, that means all of you, to join in the playing of traditional gongs during the final segment of the program. So make sure you do that with vigor. And I'm going to participate because I have no choice. So clearly tonight's event not only launches the East-West Center report on the Philippines and its relationship with Hawaii, it is a celebration of the various contributions that Filipinos have made and continue to make to the people of Hawaii, our culture, our history, and our future. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Bruno. Our first performer of the night is a University of Hawaii at Mānoa graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Philippine Language and Culture. She is currently a lecturer of Filipino language and culture at the Department of Indo-Pacific Languages and Literatures. She is also a distinguished performer with global experience, here to sing The Impossible Dream in Usahai to the music of renowned maestro Edwin Castillo. Please welcome Miss Angelique Calio.
nagsisisi ako. Bakit sinilhan sa mundo ito? At bakit di nahirap ko lamang pag-ibig ko sa'yo? Ang tani kong pag-ibig sa'yo My next song is dedicated to the early Filipinos, whom we call Sacadas, for pursuing the American dream. I honor them so much with my heart. The dream, the impossible dream, to find the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary to reach the unreachable star. Well, this is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question of heart, to be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I'd only be true to that glorious quest, then my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, my rest, and the world would be better than this. That one man scorned and covered with scars still to grow with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star, to reach the unreachable star.
Thank you, Anjali, for those two absolutely perfect renditions of Usahai and the Impossible Dream. Usahai, if you do not know, is a Visayan song, and that was the first time I've ever heard it translated and sung in Tagalog. And so I'm floored, and thank you so much for that. I enjoyed that immensely. And with that said, we're very pleased to now transition to our panel discussion as moderated by our East West Center President, Susie Veres-Lum. She will be joined by our esteemed panelists who will discuss the economic impacts and contributions of the Filipino community in Hawaii. If I can join you on the stage again.
Thank you so much again. So thank you again for the beautiful, beautiful singing and very moving. I mean, when I think about the impossible dream, I think about those who came before us, and it was hard. And sometimes when we're sitting here in this pleasant air conditioning, we forget how hard that was. So thank you for being inspired. So like we said, we have a combination of culture, art, and also of what's happening in the world, why the Philippine matters. So I'm really excited to invite up our panelists. So if I can, I will invite you up one at a time to come and have a seat. But first, if I could invite, first of all, President of the Filipino Chamber of Commerce, Susanna Berardi. Susanna. Also on our panel, I mean, this is a packed panel, as you will see here. We have the Director of the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, Jade Butai. And of course, the Philippine Consul General in Honolulu, Emil Fernandez. And Professor and Chair of the Mānoa Curriculum Studies Department, Dr. Patricia Halagao. She's got her fan base there. Also, Executive Director of the State Workforce Development Council, Bennett Misalucha. You know, before I sit down and while Bennett is making her way up there, you know, it's really great to be amongst these leaders here, and I will join you in a moment. You know, today's panel will highlight the insightful data and analysis from the special report on the Hawaii and Philippines relationship, and you should have gotten that in your flyer. But I want to say that you can also find it online by state. Why Philippines matters to California, Alabama, or anywhere else in the United States in terms of trade, investment, job creation, sister cities, personalities, or social relationships. You can find it online. Also, the Philippines Matters for America publication, as well as reports, are located on asiamattersforamerica.org, and you can find that real time, and those are updated regularly with various reports on the Philippines. So our panelists today bring their experience and knowledge, of course, to help shed light on the significant impact and contributions of the Filipino community in Hawaii. And as I just introduced them, I think I will join them here, and then we'll start with our questions. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. So we're going to start, it's kind of like speed dating, speed round with these high-powered panelists here, because we have about 30 minutes set aside, but I know we could go longer, but we want to certainly intersperse with some of our cultural presentations as well. But if we could start with the Consul General, Emil, if you don't mind. Again, thanks so much for being here. And as it was mentioned, you know, Filipinos started coming to Hawaii in the early 1900s, when the first 15 cicadas or contract laborers were recruited to work in Hawaii on the sugar plantations. And most of us who grew up here saw a lot of the burning of that cane. So could you speak on where the Philippines-Hawaii relationship stands today in the position that you're in, and what are the hopes for the future? And what does that look like?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on Philippine-Hawaii ties. And I'm honored to be such a distinguished group. As far as the current state of Philippine-Hawaii relations, if I were a professor and I were to assign a grade, I would give it a solid B plus. And yes.
B plus.
Let me tell you the reasons for this. First, we have a thriving Filipino and Filipino American community that's really contributing immensely in different fields. And these include healthcare, retail, hospitality, and other service sectors. Secondly, we have a good number of sister agreements between counties in Hawaii and several provinces and cities in the Philippines. And I understand Hawaii and California are the states with the two largest numbers of sister agreements. And third, we have a tremendous core of young elected officials serving in local government, the likes of Henry Aquino in the Senate, Patricia Chica at the House. We have Tyler Santos Tam and William Cordero from the City Council. And I'm elated because when they chose public service as their career, usually Filipino parents want their kids, sons and daughters to be professionals, doctors and lawyers. And they are passionate in certain causes, climate change, environment, education, fighting crime, addressing homelessness. And at the same time, they are advancing the causes of their Filipino American constituents. Now, on the second part of your question, my response is that the future is glaringly bright. And let me tell you why I'm optimistic. Following the COVID pandemic, there's been this renewed intensity in exchanges among high-level public officials and those in the private sector. Last year alone, we took part in a trade mission of Filipino Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii, went to Mānoa, we talked to their counterparts there, Filipino Chamber of Commerce Industry, visited several companies, explored business opportunities. I also participated in a tourism program where and it was comprised of 400 participants from throughout the US, about a third of which were participants from Hawaii. And also there was a project visit, which I participated in as well, led by Kauai County Mayor Eric Koham. And this is the first time this project was right on the great time. And he met his counterparts in the Philippines region, stayed there for a while, 2 to 10 days. And secondly, the Philippines and Israel, we are the fastest growing ethnic group in the world. And during my stay here, I tried to engage with the younger folks and how they could be more active in the affairs of the Filipino community. And I am encouraged, maybe the likes of the proponents of the Filipino curriculum project. I meet doctors and nurses from the Philippines doing amazing work in Hawaii's hospitals. And I've met Filipino entrepreneurs establishing their own businesses. And I think it's these people who are our economic and cultural bridges. And because of them, I have no doubt that our future remains bright and move forward.
Well, thank you so much for all those insights. B plus, so we're moving towards A plus in the future that you're talking about. But you're right on not just working in health, retail, hospitality, elected officials, but making change. I mean, even when we look in this audience here, I see Dr. Nancy here making change, contributing, help talk about epitome of healthcare. Not just working in it, but making a change for everyone else. And that's where we're going to move toward that A plus and fastest growing number of immigrant group in Hawaii. So thank you for that. So next, Jade, if I could go to you, and labor was the impetus for the migration of Filipinos to Hawaii in the 1900s. When they came in 1906 to work in the sugarcane fields, they were in search for a better life for themselves and their families, as every immigrant group has been. Now, a century later, how would you characterize, from your vantage point, when you look at state forced labor today, the contributions of the Filipinos to that, the state of Hawaii's labor force?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the beautiful reception. As Manu or Kuya Eddie Flores would say that some Filipinos are part Pake, so thank you for the wishes and free food. You said that we started on the sugarcane fields as workers, but we've expanded to healthcare, as Consul General mentioned, law and other fields and industries, and their children and grandchildren have risen to the highest offices in our state. Governor Ben Cayetano is the governor of our state, and he left indelible footprint. The Filipinos are as important as in ethnic groups. We're an integral part of the state's economy, culture, and community. They embody the hardworking plantation workers. They're a symbol of immigrant achievement and excellence in their field. Without Filipino workers, healthcare, retail, restaurants, hotels, construction, and other industries wouldn't survive. They're represented in every field at all different levels, upper management and entry level. However, there's some certain occupations that were underrepresented, top management and professional positions, and even in higher education. The University of Hawaii Consulate reported that 14% of the undergraduates at Mānoa, the flagship university, are Filipino descent. And they're also reported that on the system, the faculty, the instructional faculty is only 4.2%. So that's relatively low. And we were disproportionately overrepresented in some low, on the lowest paid and vulnerable employment sectors. And during COVID, we were the most impacted workers resulting from loss of jobs due to COVID. So we have a long ways to go, but I hope we don't plateau, because that's not the best we can do. The first Filipinos have sacrificed a lot and overcome a lot of barriers. So I hope we don't settle and become content.
Thank you so much, Jade. That's really striking statistics on the 14% of the student population, and the top tier academics are 4.2. But it's events like this and awareness and investment in education, I think we're going to get to how do we change that to get to that A+. But thank you for really illuminating some of these facts for us. And along those lines, so pleased to have Annette here. I've known her for a while, even when we're talking about workforce development, well before we're in these positions, because this has been an issue. You've seen the special report on Hawaii, Philippines, and that just really touches the surface, but I think it indicates this symbiotic relationship between both of the economies, possibilities. I'm wondering if you could speak on, some of the what the statistics suggest about the impacts on our economy, particularly the workforce, and what are some of the initiatives that can further strengthen these economic ties and labor ties, or anything on that subject that you'd like to go?
Thank you very much, President Verislam, for this opportunity and for allowing me to be part of this panel. I think the data is clear that there's clearly we contribute to each other's economies, but I think we can also agree that the relationship is more than economic. It's filial, it's family. We have shared values, we have the ties that bind us are deep. But when you look at these statistics, though, I think what was a takeaway for me is that there's more than we can cultivate. Considering the strong Filipino presence in our community, we have so much potential. I remember in the 80s, when I first arrived in Hawaii, the Filipinos here were dubbed as the sleeping giant. Somehow, I think we're half awake now, but more can be done. So I'm a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum. So you gave it a B+. I'd say B-. And let me allow me to elaborate. I think because of our large constituency, we could have a stronger influence in the social economic future of our state. I'd like to speak here in my capacity as Executive Director of the Workforce Development Council, and particularly focusing attention on the Filipino American workforce. I think earlier it was recognized that we have a couple of industries or sectors where we clearly dominate, and one of which is we have a strong representation in the medical field, whether in nursing, medicine, even care homes. Did you know that 90% of people who run care homes are of Filipino ancestry? The other field where we have stronger representation is the hospitality service industry. I think somebody joked that if all Filipinos stay home who work in Waikiki will be at a standstill. I don't know if you would agree. But you have heard Director Butai address a little bit of the history of the Filipino labor force. But what I'd like to kind of share a little bit is a vision of the future. Where are the opportunities where there's a symbiotic relationship and the future is, I think, bright. So as you know, there's a labor shortage. There's the graying of the labor force and many are opting to retire early, especially after COVID. And then there's not enough birth rate. So there's not enough people to actually fill the vacancies. So, but with technology, the world has become smaller. We've come to overcome geographic boundaries. So there are two labor sectors which promises to have some potential opportunities. One is education. I don't know if you've heard the news, but one of the newest programs instituted by the Department of Education are Philippine trained teachers who are being brought here to fill vacancies in difficult to place areas, particularly Lanai, Molokai, Hawaii. Last month, there was a DOE recruiter who went to the Philippines, Manila, Cebu, and Ilocos, with a goal of bringing in 200 new teachers for next year. So this is not new to the US. In fact, in Maryland and in Florida, there's been wonderful results. The teacher of the year in Florida was a Philippine trained teacher. So in addition, there's an effort to also start apprenticeship programs under the leadership of Director Butai. We're hoping that we could have addressed the population of immigrants who were teachers in the Philippines but are now in service industries. In fact, we met one during the orientation of the Philippine trained teachers. She was a teacher in the Philippines, but she's working as a janitor at one of the schools, Farrington High Schools. But hopefully we can arm them with credentials and necessary training and then they'll be able to return to teaching. The other labor sector that I hope we can explore is business processing outsourcing. Do you know that the Philippines has replaced India as the #1 in the world as far as BPO? And we're talking call centers, engineering, graphic design companies. Many of them are based here in Hawaii. And then they have offices in the Philippines, and they're taking advantage of a strong English-speaking, strong, talented labor pool. And because of the time difference, by the time Hawaii wakes up, the work is done. So it's been a while since we've actually captured that. Think about it. In the next trade mission for the Filipino Chamber, maybe that's something that we need to pursue so that then more Hawaii businesses can also take advantage of that. So I just wanted to say that a rising tide raises all ships. If the Filipino American population here prospers, the community prospers. I mentioned about sleeping giant in this analogy. I think it would be a travesty if we continue to sleep. We have to wake up, engage, take on our rightful place in this economy. I have hope that we can do this, that we can build upon the promise that have been set, that have been earlier brought to us by our sakadas. I think the future is bright. And why? We always have to say why, because we owe it to our sakadas.
Thank you so much. By those very powerful statistics and the possibilities and education and outsourcing processing, very powerful. So thank you so much. So next I'd like to turn to Susanna or Susie. I think they call you also Susie, because I call me Susie also. So, you bring that lens of the Filipino Chamber of Commerce, which I think is fascinating, and you look at the data. And I wondered if you could share with us your thoughts on how Filipino-owned businesses have impacted the community here in Hawaii, or anywhere else that you'd like to share on this issue.
Thank you. Aloha and mabuhay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be here with you today. I look forward to sharing some insights with you, not only as the president of the Filipino Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii, but also as a businesswoman who has been importing products and services from the Philippines to Hawaii over 30 years. The topic given to me is how have Filipino-owned businesses impacted the community here in Hawaii? Throughout my professional career, my husband and I have always sought to create an economic bridge between the Philippines and Hawaii. This fits nicely with the mission of the Filipino Chamber of Commerce, as it is also our goal to bring economic opportunities to our Filipino community here in Hawaii while helping our families and communities back in the Philippines. We feel it is a win-win situation, an opportunity for both communities. If you look at the data from the special report provided, it shows only one side of the coin. The report shows only the economic effect of products and services exported from Hawaii to the Philippines. And if you take out travel-related figures, you are left about $3.6 million in goods and $13.7 million in services exported to the Philippines. We feel this number has room to grow as Hawaii businesses have technology that can help the Philippines' development and growth. These areas are engineering, waste treatment, clean energy solutions, construction, and other technical related industries. This opens the door to Filipino American entrepreneurs to connect with their Filipino counterparts and create opportunities to address these needs. On the flip side, I did a little more research and found the area that had an impact on my business personally. As an importer here in Hawaii, bringing in goods and services from the Philippines, there is very little activity. Consul Liselta Asi from Philippine Consulate was nice enough to share with me some data relating to export trade from the Philippines to Hawaii. These numbers surprised me as to how low they were, which led me to question them. In 2018 and 2019 showed only $1.5 million to $2.1 million in imports to Hawaii for general merchandise only. That doesn't include food products. In 2020 to 2022, we saw a dramatic drop due to COVID when most trade stopped altogether. These figures are starting to pick up slowly as Hawaii reopens for business, but they are nowhere near where they should be or can be. Now, how can we change those numbers? At the Filipino Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii, we are instituting entrepreneur business seminars, teaching our members about the many opportunities to do business between Hawaii and the Philippines. Hawaii and the Philippines have so much in common that it is a natural fit to do business between the two of us. We find that it's information that is lacking. Teaching our communities how they can prosper by connecting both communities will enrich the lives of not only the Filipino community here, but also provide economic opportunity to our families and friends back in the Philippines. I have always practiced under the understanding that entrepreneurship is an important catalyst to economic change. My husband and I are proof of that idea. Filipino entrepreneurs will find that there are significant opportunities to bridge the two communities through understanding what the Philippines offers that Hawaii needs and wants, and tapping into the greatest of all export the Philippines has to offer, the people. And that can be done remotely without even stepping foot here in Hawaii. Our goal is to share those opportunities with our community members, and teach them how to prosper. This will have the greatest impact upon our community when we are able to bless the lives both here in Hawaii and the Philippines. If you would like to learn more about our upcoming entrepreneur seminars, please contact me or go to our website, filipinochamber.org. Maraming salamat po. And I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Susie. Wow, that's really insightful. A lot of great information. And I love this idea of this economic bridge and the opportunities that exist. And this idea of connecting communities and people being one of the most amazing imports and opportunities for businesses and entrepreneurship. And thank you for providing the information on the classes. So I'm sure we can all look up on Philippines Chamber of Commerce site. So last but not least, first we have Dr. Patricia Halagao, who has been an advocate for Filipinos and other underrepresented groups in Hawaii. And I'd love for you to share with us about what measures have had the most positive impact for Filipinos in Hawaii, because you've been a part of a lot of that. So.
Thank you, President Carlum, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me to sit on this important panel that is about why Filipinos matter. And so I just want to start off with a story to connect to this question. So I was once at a school where there was predominantly a lot of Filipino students, about 75%. And I asked the students what they were learning. And I got a chance to talk to a middle school student, Maria, I remember her name. And I asked her, well, why do you think you've never learned about yourself in school as a Filipino? And she thought to herself and she said, well, I think it's probably because Filipinos haven't done anything important. And that, hearing her say that was kind of like a dagger in my heart when I heard that. Because when you don't see yourself represented in the books that you read, the teachers that are in front of you, you make this assumption that they're not important. And so representation really matters. And so Maria's comment has really stuck in my mind throughout my time as an educator of about 25 years, and has really shaped the mission and the work that I do in schools. So Hawaii, you've learned, has a lot of Filipinos, about 25%, but you may or may not know that actually Filipinos represent a quarter in our public school system, just slightly more than Hawaiians. And so Filipinos and Hawaiians actually make up close to 50% of our public schools. So it's a responsibility for us to reflect who our students are. And so when I think of these measures that are important to have a positive impact, I think of education, and I think about our youth. And I think about what they need in their schools in the way of curriculum, teachers, and policy. So in the last few years, I've had the opportunity and honor to work with these high school students and now college students who are taking education into their own hands. They're tired of adults talking and they want action. And so you'll learn a little bit more about them later. Their mission is to represent themselves in education, and you'll learn about how they're doing that through systems and through courses. And their voices have been strong. I'd say stronger than me as even a parent or as a teacher. When any principal or any school listens to students, that's when I think action happens. And so I always tell them, your voices are so powerful. I think it's also important that we as educators support them. And so people like Senator Lucha, when she heard these students talk about the project and wanting to design curriculum, when she was senator, she helped pass a resolution that actually requested the Department of Education to teach and implement a Filipino history culture course, social studies course in the schools. And while I cannot say that, well, I can say the DOE was very much inspired by a lot of the political support to support this particular course. So fast forward 2 years, you'll see the students later, they'll introduce what the course is all about. Doing this whole project has actually made me realize, though, that curriculum is important, but same with who's in front teaching the course. And so teachers, Filipino teachers are actually 8% of the Department of Education. And so we are very much underrepresented in education. And as is pointed out, we're even smaller when we get to the faculty. And so I make up 3 to 4% here at the university. And so it is important that we have role models for our teachers. And so that's another piece of this initiative that we're working on at the College of Education, is how to pull more students into thinking about teaching as a profession. And finally, when I was on the Hawaii State Board of Education, I had an opportunity to serve for 3 years. I worked on some policies. In particular, I just wanted to mention the seal of biliteracy and multilingualism for an equitable education. And what this did was it really reframed how we looked at our English learner students, which is how they call them in the Department of Education. But the problem is when you use English learner, it starts off with a deficit mentality when we look at our students, that they're learning English, instead of looking at the assets and the languages that they already bring to the table. So we've really worked with reframing and calling these our students as multilingual learners, because they have so much to offer as immigrants with the languages that they bring to the table. They're smarter than all of us that are monolingual, as far as I'm concerned. And so it's really important too, because Filipinos actually represent some of the largest of the whole languages in the Department of Education. And so again, it's really important that we honor and value the languages that they bring and look at them as strengths that they bring to the table. And I just want to kind of round it out as an academic, that research shows that when you connect the curriculum to who your students are, they're more engaged, and then that actually increases engagement. So I think with all these educational measures, there's some positivity with what we're seeing with our youth, and hopefully increasing teachers, and that we have policies that actually support the work that we're doing. And because of this, I think we'll create a more just and equitable system for our students.
Not lost upon us what you said, that not just Philippines matters, but Filipinos matter for Hawaii. I love how you said that, and that representation really matters. That's very powerful, what you shared and those statistics. I think, you know, all of you have shared some insightful statistics, but also from the heart. And also representation matters. The fact that you are all sitting here and has achieved so much for our community and for our world, and for our nation, and many in this audience today and online. So I think this is the beginning of a continued conversation on why all of us matter for this conversation. And I'm looking forward to hearing about our curriculum program in a little bit. So let's give a round of applause again. So
Mahalo to our wonderful panelists for that insightful discussion. I would now like to welcome Dr. Luisa E. Gloria, a renowned author and poet. She was also recently the Poet Laureate Emerita of the Commonwealth of Virginia. She'll be reading from her poetry collection, Maps for Migrants and Ghosts, Ode to the Heart Smaller Than a Pencil Eraser, and some new poems which are yet to be published. We are very grateful to have her here today, so please welcome, with a warm applause, Dr. Luisa E. Gloria.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Can you see me? I think this is a magic podium, right? Can you hear me okay? Good evening, everyone. And good evening to all of the panelists, distinguished panelists and our hosts. And I would like to say a special thank you to Dr. Pia Arboleda and the Center for Philippine Studies, who have made it possible for me to come here. And I've been really having a great time. We had a reading on Saturday, and it's such a short visit. I was here. My first visit here was only in 2006, and coming back now, it feels very much like home to me because I am from Baguio originally. So I look around and I feel like I am there. And so many warm people, so many Filipinos here make that experience so rich and welcoming. So I had not actually planned to do this, to start with this poem. I wanted to go ahead and read from the prepared pieces that I had selected, but some of you may know that I write a poem a day, and I've been doing so for the last almost 13 years. So I maintain a daily writing practice. You know, gives me street cred, right? So my poem yesterday, which I wrote, I have actually addressed some of the ways in which this landscape surrounding me in this past 4 or 5 days has made me feel connected. And the theme of this evening is connection. So with your permission, I will read. E como mai means welcome. On this island, the way distant cottages look reminds us of our old hometown, though now stripped of cypress and of pine. But the hills are shaded with strands of plumeria, streets with the arches of shower trees, even in the midst of drought. When the wind lofts pikake blossoms into the air, my skin is hungry for the taste of sweeter times. Neither the calls of zebra dogs nor the down-sliding notes of the golden-crowned sparrow can quiet my restlessness. This sense of how, even in the middle of paradise, grief's mottled eye continues to offer itself as a gift of welcome. Strands of black tiger eye kukui nut and tea leaves, a ceremony wreathed around my neck. Thank you. So I also, of course, would like to acknowledge Dr. Suzanne Vargas-Loon and the East-West Center and Honorable Consul General Emil T. Fernandez and Provost Michael Bruno of the University of Hawaii, Dr. Patricia Halagao, and so many other people who have made this possible for me. The Department of Indo-Pacific Languages and Literature, the English Department, Jake Vermas, and the White Noise Project, and so many others. So I thought I would share a couple of poems. And one of these is a poem that I actually was commissioned to write for the unveiling and dedication of a historical marker in Virginia Beach, in Virginia, honoring Filipino sailors. And this was done in May of 2022 rather. And I know that we all recognize that the complex history of Philippine and American relations goes back to the turn of the last century, but it is a thread that links to this place and time and to anywhere that there are Filipino communities. So there is an epigraph to the poem I'm reading, which honors Filipinos in the Navy. And the epigraph comes from a FANS, or Filipino American National Historical Society online article. And I quote, "Several thousand Filipinos had been recruited into the US Navy and other branches of the military during the American colonial period. As a result of increased need for personnel, as a result of the Korean War, the Navy began recruiting Filipinos at a rate of 1,000 a year in 1952, and this increased to 2,000 annually in 1954. Filipinos were limited in the steward rank until 1971, when an agreement was reached with the Philippine State Department to discard the practice. Stewards were responsible for providing cooking and cleaning for the ship and domestic service to officers and their families, food service, cleaning, laundry, and other chores." So here is the poem called "We Seafarers." Forward and bow, the hulls built resistance to restive water. Each port a pin on the scalloped edge of a map. As for leaving an archipelago, as if it was a simple matter of plowing into the foam, wave after wave turning like a page. What of home or history? No, not that one, with a date and an explorer's name attached to it, nor his naming of our ancestors' lands after his king. Rather, those gridless skies above green canopies and mangrove forests, islands threaded through with rivers and streams, with fabled animals and birds whose songs would stun you into stone. You'd find coming back to these histories, spaces where brooks sounded as they cut through forests of fern and lady slipper orchids, as they fused with the nightly discourse of frogs. Sleeping volcanoes, houses on stilts or perched on hills, their roofs touched by the same sun that colored the fields and shimmered the fish, which expeditions tagged, numbered, and held in vats. They still float in the cool basement of a museum, part of the 100,000 archives of our waters. Fortune, we are told, favors the bold. Fortune, we dreamed, waited at the end of months-long journeys as we set sail, then for a fabled land. Passage extracts a price from everyone. Some of us paying with our labor on the very vessels that took us here. But here we are today, across the land, across the globe, we, architects of rafts and smaller vessels that narrow distances between shores. We, no longer just recruits, apprentices, mess boys, servants, stewards. We, builders of galleons, we who learn to captain our craft by the stars. This is a poem that I had liked to read, especially when we were hearing so much news about how our Asian American communities, including our Filipino American and Filipino communities, were being victimized and targeted by hate crimes and just hate speech. So I also honor, in the same way that our guest performer, singer, beautiful songs, honored those who came before and had so many sacrifices, so those of us could follow after. I am reading a poem called Elegy for Forced Disappearance. Each night we looked for a slip of milk at the bottom of a cold stone bowl, for signs of a widening chink in the armor of darkness. We lay our heads on wooden pillows. Even in dreams, we went to work in factories with no fire escapes. Though our hunger grew, we tried not to let it show. We peered through the slats of the floor to see how pigs churned up the mud from habit, how the slop they were fed was never, ever enough. When they came for the line order cooks and the busboys, for dishwashers and drivers without papers, we despaired about stories we'd heard of finding one way in and back. We who'd kept our clean laundry in boxes under the sink, our few letters from home tied with a string in a sock. We who'd come to memorize by heart the number of steps to the next landing, how our fingers could fumble in a hallway to find the cord to turn on the lamp. I think I will read just 3 short poems next. This one is actually from a forthcoming book in 2024 called Call Bearer. And it's something in which I return again. This is my favorite subject also, living in history, how we are all connected to the histories that precede us, that are all around us, and that we are helping to create. So this one is called Colony, and I wrote it after hearing that there is a story that many, if not most, old churches in the Philippines from colonial times used egg whites as a binder in construction. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it's kind of fascinating. And then I thought, no wonder we have so many rich and eggy, yolky desserts. Right, they had to use it somewhere, right? So this is Colony. In every town, a public square, monuments whitened in patches by lime and bird droppings, streets and bridges named after men who came in caravels. They banished to the outskirts shamans and native priestesses, then pressed plow and yoke onto farmers' backs. Next, the building of churches and cathedrals, fantasy of fountains and pulpits painted over with clouds of putti and gold. An altar boy set the censer into its dialectic swing, forward and back, curling clouds of incense smoke until it came to rest again. The footnotes we write, the margin notes will say, we come to hate and love what history has made of us. It said the walls were set with agramasa, a paste of mortar, powdered brick, sand, ground husks, the whites of hundreds and hundreds of eggs. The oldest of these still stand down to their bell towers, crumbling like sugar paste, somehow more desirable in their surrender to time. And I'll just read 2 more. One sort of celebrates the flora, the kinds of beautiful landscapes that we knew before, the onset of all of this industrial, landscaping. And it's something I'm very passionate about, eco-poetics, that is writing this vision of a world that we could still preserve for those who come after us. So this is called Flora of the Tropics. In our wild gardens, we grew no apples goldening in late light, no pears or plums, What animals nosed their way into our simple plots tore pages from tightly bound greens, leaving fiddlehead ferns to sleep undisturbed by the shed. If any star fell into the belly of an apple, we did not hear about it. We did not cut its flesh crosswise to find a sign about our origins and fall, our banishment. In the smudged fields, tubers marbled patiently, waiting for us to pull them up and out of the earth like babies. What crescents crowned their arrival? And of the air, roots of orchids spoke to each other in their own vernacular. Of flood, we knew nothing until galleons pushed their way into the channels. Of grasses, we knew which could bind and which could forge canopies to repel rain. How are we blind and how misled when we've coaxed stones into terraces leading to the gods? Laid end to end, they would make more than a girdle for this earth. And thank you. And I'll finish with a praise poem, an ode. It has the title of a prayer, which is also a prayer of praise, Magnificat. Magnificat. Let us praise, they said, and so we should. Let us praise the wood that was saved from the house and the stones we used for the new kitchen floor. Let us praise the walls which leaked with the fury of hurricanes, yet kept us dry where we huddled in the middle of the room. Let us praise the wildness of the garden which gave us mint to fragrance our hands and branches from which to hang wet clothes. Let us praise the nights that were strung with curfews and the hiding places we found in them for fugitives and friends. Let us praise the ones who left, even of their own volition, and the hearts that must have suffered from the myriad difficulties of choice. Let us praise how we witnessed a rash of flowers open one by one along the broken fence, even as the sea or heaving earth took those we loved. And let us praise the clapper and the hollow gong, both pain and joy have made of our insides, how forever we will swing this way in the wind. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po. That was very inspiring. Let's give another round of applause for Dr. Gloria. Now, this is very exciting. Their reputation and their work precedes them. I would like to welcome, and I'm very excited to welcome you all, our high school students from the Filipino Curriculum Project to share more about your initiative.
Masanto si Labi at si kayo namin. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I wanted to thank all of the organizers on behalf of the Filipino Curriculum Project for making this possible for us to share our work. My name is Raymar Biliote. I am a first-generation immigrant from the Philippines. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I graduated from Waipahu High School. I wish I could say I'm still in high school, but I am now a current junior at UH West Oahu, majoring in secondary education. And by the way, happy Filipino American History Month. I think there is no better way for us to celebrate this month by announcing to you guys that the Hawaii Department of Education has finally approved the first of its kind social studies high school course on Filipino history and culture. Thank you. And I must say, this is also a national breakthrough for us because this is the very first social studies course of its kind to be passed in a statewide level here in Hawaii. So we've achieved that this summer. And this could not have been possible without the support of our families, our friends, the community, and the educator design team for the Filipino Curriculum Project. And of course, the powerful student voice of the Filipino Curriculum Project. With that being said, we have prepared a video showcasing the work that we have done so far, and I hope that you enjoy it.
So what is the Filipino Curriculum Project?
The Filipino Curriculum Project
Is a student-driven public-private school initiative
of Filipino students
Working together to create a curriculum about Filipino history, culture, and identity to be implemented in Hawaii schools to bring more Filipino representation to education. I founded the Filipino Curriculum Project as a sophomore in high school in 2021. As a sophomore, I realized that my required Asian history class didn't include the Philippines. This communicated that my history and culture weren't worth being represented despite Filipinos being Hawaii's largest Asian ethnic group. So I got in touch with Filipino students from other schools who also recognize these educational gaps and were interested in advocating for more Filipino representation. In 2021, the Filipino Curriculum Project was born.
This has been a 2-year process. Our goal has been to design a curriculum about Filipino history and culture to be implemented as a social studies course statewide. This course is created and inspired by students for students.
At the Filipino Curriculum Project, we all see the importance of educational representation. As Filipino students, we personally see how gaps can be filled when we feel represented.
in college. I also find this common theme of identity crisis within my Filipino peers. A lot of them are telling me that they did not learn so much about their Filipino heritage when they were in high school. As a future educator, this is something that I want to solve through the Filipino Curriculum Project.
Identity was something that I've always struggled with because I knew what I was ethnically, but not who I was. I only acknowledged one side of myself, that being my Hawaiian side. I noticed that when we focus on only one part of ourselves, we lose the other parts that are just as important.
Filipinos have done and can do amazing things, and I want to give that sense of pride to the younger generation of Filipino students, no matter what percentage they are.
When I emigrated to Hawaii from the Philippines, my peers would constantly undermine my abilities because I could not proficiently speak and write in English. Today, I am an aspiring Filipino educator who wants to ensure that her students feel a sense of belonging and pride in and out of the classrooms.
We originally created 3 units with overarching theme of identity, historical context, culture and connections, and Filipinos in Hawaii. We feel strongly about connecting the curriculum to the students.
In April 2022, after creating lesson plans, presenting to educators and community leaders, and sharing our story on many platforms, we testified and passed a historic resolution, HCR 56, requesting the Hawaii Department of Education to implement a course on Filipino history, culture, and identity.
The creation and the proposing of our curriculum wouldn't be possible without the help and expertise of the educators in our educator design team. They took our ideas and framework and made a curriculum outline of 6 themes: identity, historical interactions and developments, culture and connections, Filipinos in Hawaii and in the United States, the Philippines in an interconnected world, and community engagement and civic action. We collaborated with them to create the proposal and the syllabus. Farrington High School will be the school to officially propose the course to the DOE.
Our culminating project is a social justice action project. Students will identify issues in the Filipino community or their own and demonstrate how they can affect change.
After presenting to Farrington's principal, the course was officially proposed and approved by the Hawaii DOE. The course will be open for registration for all high school grade levels starting summer 2023 and will be taught starting fall 2024.
If you are a student in the Hawaii DOE, please consider signing up for our course on Filipino history and culture. Whether you are Filipino or not, you are sure to gain something from this curriculum. It was created due to student activism and will continue to stay student-centered.
Overall, this experience has been so empowering for us as students. We formed our own familia and strengthened or created a connection to our Filipino culture and bonded through a shared mission. We hope to continue to inspire others to fight for a change.
Maraming salamat po. It is my honor now to present 6 of the 26 students from the Filipino Curriculum Project who are here with me today. I would like to invite them to introduce their names and their schools.
Hi, I'm Lilian Florendo, and I'm a freshman at Kalani High School.
Hi, my name is Layla Florendo. I'm also a freshman at Kalani High School.
Aloha, my name is Keikoek Polsa, and I'm a senior at Kamehameha.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Eliza Espinosa, and I am just like Raymart. I'm a first-generation immigrant from the Philippines as well. I am a Roosevelt High School alumni, and I currently go to Kapiolani Community College right now. And I eventually want to transfer to UH Mānoa to pursue my degree in biochemistry. What I wanted to share with you guys tonight is the final unit of this course, where students will be tackling social justice issues as their project. Students will then plan and demonstrate some way in which they can help to improve this issue. I think that this is the most inspiring part of the course because us as a group, we believe that empowerment is the key to being able to do everything and anything. And that's exactly why I joined this project. This curriculum has overall been a character development for me. I think that empowerment really connects us to our roots, and it's more than just that. I joined the project not only to be able to help other Filipinos reconnect to their roots, but to also empower myself in a world where not a lot of Filipinos are confident enough to call themselves one. I want to emphasize and remind everyone that there is more to just being a Filipino, and it is important to look back and remember about your roots. I was once a Filipino that never liked my skin color or my thick accent, but I realized that other race would stay under the sun just to achieve the skin tone that I have right now. And a lot of people would spend their lifetime learning another language, and while I effortlessly know multiple because of the diversity that my parents have influenced me. Sorry, I'm really nervous. I know being a Filipino is more than just being somewhere in the medical field or in the service industry. And I believe that you can be anything that you want to be when you empower yourself. And I think I speak for all of us in this room when I say nothing is more empowering than getting to know your roots and embracing every little thing about it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Isis Jade Mariano. I am a senior at Farrington High School. Go Goes! And I will be talking about the implementation of our course. So we're currently, as previously mentioned, we do have a resolution and it has been passed by the Hawaii DOE. And so this course is available to all schools. And we are starting off with implementing this course into Farrington and Waipahu High School because 50% of the student population in those high schools are Filipino students. So we think it's very important to start in a high school where it's majority Filipino students to get more student interest. And when other schools hear about this course being in Farrington and Waipahu, as we know, Hawaii high schools are very competitive with each other for whatever reason. So I guess it'll start like this competition between the high schools. Oh, they have this Filipino course. We need to have this Filipino course too. So yeah, that's why we're starting with Waipahu and Farrington, and there has been a lot of student interest, and I'm confident that this course will be in all schools here on not just Oahu, but in Kauai and Maui and Big Island schools all around, and will eventually spread from Hawaii, the state of Hawaii, to the entire America. Please. And so I leave this project to my school, Farrington High School, not as just a senior, but as the senior class council president at Farrington High School. I leave my legacy. This is my legacy. This project is my legacy. And I joined this project because I was born here, born and raised here in Hawaii. And so I never had that, I guess, Filipino experience like how my first generation folks have. And so I felt that little disconnection from my Filipino heritage because I didn't know how to speak Filipino. I didn't know any of our Filipino traditions. And so this is my step forward to connect with my culture. And through this course, I did learn that there are a lot of similarities between Filipino and Hawaiian culture. Like Lima is 5 in both Hawaiian and Filipino, or maybe like similar foods in Hawaiian, like squid luau is similar to the Filipino la'i. And I did learn that there are a lot of connections, not with just Hawaiian and Filipino, but Filipino and other cultures as well. So thank you.
Maraming salamat, Isis. Joining this project has been a life-changing moment for me. I joined the project when I was a senior in high school in Waipahu High School. And I am now the co-leader of the project. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Marissa Halagao, who is now in Yale University, who started this project when she was a sophomore in high school. And for speaking up about the underrepresentation of Filipinos here in Hawaii. And ever since high school, my parents have always told me to go nursing or engineering or either, or both, you know. But ever since I joined the project, I found my passion in teaching and advocating for more Filipino representation here in Hawaii. And I also want to mention that I do have a 3-year-old sister who was born here, and I want her to grow up, learning about her roots, seeing herself in the classroom, and to feel empowered, just like what Eliza has mentioned when she grows up. But it's also for the next generation of Filipinos here in Hawaii and throughout the United States. With that said, we have been working closely with the educator design team on a professional development for teachers who want to teach this course in their respective schools. And it should be available for next year during the summer, in which I will be a part of as well as an education major. And again, on behalf of the Filipino Curriculum Project, maraming salamat po, and representation matters.
Thank you so much to the leaders of the Filipino Curriculum Project. Let's give them another round of applause. I would now like to turn it over to Dr. Pia Arboleda, the director of the UH Mānoa Center for Philippine Studies, who has been an amazing partner in organizing tonight's event. As a master educator and leader in higher education, Dr. Pia has been a strong advocate for uplifting Filipino students to excel and advance in their academic aspirations. I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Pia to the stage to provide some closing remarks and an introduction to our closing performance.
Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. For the first time, I am speechless. I can't. I always cry when I see these kids. Thank you very much, Zach, for that introduction. It takes many hands to make an event like this a success. On behalf of the East-West Center and the UH Center for Philippine Studies and the Philippine Consulate General in Honolulu, we thank you for being here today. We thank our distinguished guests, Provost Michael Bruno, Ms. Susan Berardi, Mr. Jade Butay, Conjen Emil Fernandez, Ms. Benet Misalucha, Dr. Patricia Halagao. Of course, thank you to the Filipino Curriculum Project, and thank you to Poet Laureate Luisa A. Igloria. Many thanks to Ikaika Mendez, who actually set the tone for our meeting today. I think that because of his prayer, we have all been very much enlightened. Many thanks to Angelique Calio. And I will be remiss if I do not thank the IPLL staff, Mrs. Hoxon, Tristan Godoy, Precious Arao, Katrine Salmasan, Aaron Lancheta. This is only because they have to put up with me every single day. So for that, you have to hand it to them. When we started this project, we all agreed that launching this report matters not only to Hawaii, but to all the world. And so I can't believe that after many months we are here today. I also would like to thank Dr. Miriam Stark and Terry Skillman and the Center for Southeast Asian Studies for their partnership with the Philippine Consulate that allowed Dr. Luisa A. Igloria to grace our event. I stand here today on the shoulders of my ancestors. I was the unfortunate person who had to inherit two separate programs, the Center for Philippine Studies from Dr. Belinda A. Aquino and the Filipino program from Dr. Teresita Ramos and Ruth Elinia Mabanglo. And people looked at me then and said, "You have big shoes to fill." And I said, I didn't want to fill their shoes. I just want to survive. I want to keep the program afloat because Dr. Teresita Ramos told me, if anything happens to this program, mumultuhin kita, which means I will haunt you for life. So far, I can't possibly make this up. It is true. That was in 2008. And I told her back then, well, it's going to be a long time yet because you live to be 120. I'll probably die before you because I'm so unhealthy. But last year, may her soul rest in peace. She has passed on back to the arms of our ancestors. But I can assure you that we are so very much not endangered. And I think that she will not haunt me. The world today is laden with chaos, poverty, and injustice, and it is a rare gift for us to gather together to reflect and to celebrate Philippine culture. Getting this report out into the world is important so that it may serve as guideposts for future generations. So it was wonderful that we have our students here today. They've actually already done the work. When I think about the challenges that we face as educators, community leaders, and members of our profession, we know that everything becomes worth it because we do it for our children. Sometimes we are lucky and we can make change. This is a testament that change does happen when we discard all political differences to reach a common goal. And sometimes we do leave this place better than when we found it. Maraming salamat po. As our celebration draws to a close, it is also my honor to introduce the last segment of our program. We will now witness two cultural presentations, the Pangalay and Balangbang. Pangalay among Tausug people in the Sulu Archipelago, Philippines, and Suluk people in Malaysia is popularly understood to be, quote, dancing with the hands, unquote. The dancing involves particular ways of moving the body, involving curving and curling hand and arm motifs in relation to the rhythms of the Kulintangan Gong Ansang. The dancing is performed for festive occasions, particularly at weddings and celebratory activities after Haylaya Puasa, the month of fasting for Muslims. Balangbang is today's culminating piece. Participants strike handheld flat gongs called gangsa, while others dance with them. Balangbang is one example from an indigenous repertoire of communal music with dance practices in the Cordillera Administrative Region, where our Port Laureate came from, Northern Luzon, Philippines. This is performed at rituals, weddings, and other celebrations, peace pact ceremonies, and at festivals. Our final performers are Wayland and Desiree Quintero, our culture bearers and advocates for the promotion and preservation of our pamana ng lahi, or the things that are bequeathed to us by our ancestors. They are also language and culture teachers at Leeward Community College. With them are Scott Andrada, Donovan Oda, Jake Vermas, Paul Cosme, and Corey Coyote Harkins, who were our Fulbright scholars last summer, Fulbright 2023. Please join us for the communal celebration. It is true, you will have to dance, and I purposely did not tell our guests that they will do this so that when they arrive here, they will all have no choice. Maraming salamat po. And here is our final performance.